But, Rob, let's get into a little baseball. I think there's an exciting story brewing, and you want to hate, so we can get into it.
I'm not hating.
Let's go at it.
I'm educating.
Well, yeah, we'll see. Anyway, my boy, Shohei Ohtani.
Oh, now you're a Shohei guy.
I said I was the only one on this show that said he was the MVP last year, and sure enough, he wins MVP. So anyway, Shohei Ohtani, who I don't think will win it this year, although some people are saying, he becomes, Rob, the first player in Major League Baseball history to record 30 home runs and 10 wins on the mound in the same season. And everybody, rightly so, is going crazy over it. Congratulations, Shohei Ohtani, for doing something that no one else in the history of the sport has done. Not even Russell Westbrook's triple-double season. Now, he's the first to do it multiple times, but Oscar Robertson had done it. So this is incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yet another made-up stat where they come up with some little, nobody's ever won 10. What is 9 games? Nobody's ever won 10 games, and it's always the same. And my Zoom went out, Chris, so I'm having issues. Okay, so you can't.
It's gonna
sorry
be a
about
good
that.
one too.
Yeah, I hate that my battery, something's going on. But anyway, I'm not buying into this. This is a thing about Shohei because nobody else has ever done what he's been able to do, because for the most part they aren't allowed to do it. They had never allowed guys who were good hitters to want to hit. There are a number of pitchers, Chris, over the years who are good athletes who probably could have done it, but they always went to the specialization. And then
when did they get to specialize?
Well, I'm just saying, like, there were guys who could have done this. Babe Ruth did it back in the 20s, and guys used to hit all the time, Chris.
Well,
pitchers used to hit all the time.
I know that in high school, you know, a lot of times the best pitcher is just a great player and he can hit. But if you were that good, you could have done both. I'm not buying it.
No, they frowned on it. They wanted you to concentrate. If you're a pitcher, we don't want you to hit. We want you to pitch. And then Shohei shows up to the United States. He demands to be a two-way player. And they're like, okay. And I'm not knocking him. He's a talented guy. He's unbelievable. He's not the MVP because he hasn't played in a meaningful game since opening day. So I'm not buying that he's an MVP, okay, candidate. I'm sorry.
Let's take away Mike Trout. He's never played in a meaningful game.
Okay, but you got a guy who has been playing in meaningful games all year. All right, my point is, this is not as big of a deal because if there were more players, Chris, here's my point, and I'm going to be very clear on this. If there were 10 guys doing this, and he was the only guy to ever accomplish 10 wins and 30 home runs, then I would say, wow. Nobody else has ever been able to do this because there are other guys who are doing it, but they're not good enough. They're not as good as he is. But nobody else is doing it. So it's a made up, like, oh my God, are you watching this? Can you believe what he's doing? Well, of course, because we've never seen this. We haven't seen a guy like this since Babe Ruth, and he played in the 20s, Chris. This is 2022. This is like 100 years ago. Stop with the Ohtani is unbelievable and nobody's ever done this and he's incredible and watch this and oh my God, can you believe what he's doing? Nobody else was given the opportunity to do what he's done, and I give him credit that he's been able to excel. He was an MVP and all that, but this ain't the big deal they're making it up to be.
Well, look, I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't think there's ever been a baseball player other than Babe Ruth who could have done
Okay,
both.
Thank you.
Okay, right. I will give you
me
I
that.
don't know who. You don't know who.
No,
but I'm guessing somebody could have done both.
Yep.
That said, nobody has. And if they were good enough, they could have demanded it. If you were good enough to do both at a high level. Shohei was an exceptional hitter and pitcher over in Japan. Okay, and he demanded. He said, look, the team that's going to let me do both is most likely the team that's going to get me. No one else could have done that. If you were awesome at that in college or in high school, you couldn't have said, look, the college that allows me to do both, that's where I'm going because I think I can do both. Or the minor league team that allows me to do both, if I'm drafted, I'll go to that franchise and still going to college. Like, instead of going to college. So Rob, this is like if a player, let's say, just for the sake of argument, let's say Micah Parsons played offense this year and became, let's say they put him at running back and he rushed for 1,200 yards. And he became the first player ever to rush for 1,200 yards and get 10 sacks. I wouldn't poo-poo it and say, well, they won't let anybody else go both ways. Deion did it a little bit, and no, it would be a heck of an accomplishment.
I get that, Chris, and I'm not trying to take away his talent. He's an unbelievable player. My only point is to say he's the first guy to ever do it when nobody else has ever had a chance to do it in 100 years is the comical part, right?
Well, I mean, I get when I first read it, I was like, well, of course nobody else.
Right.
But this is what we've been, you and I have talked about this before, Rob. Like, will he start a trend? And we've talked to people, and correct me if I'm wrong. I think most have felt it won't become a trend.
No, I agree with you.
Right?
I don't think it's going to be a trend. They would have to be so special. And he had an advantage, as you said, that he had done so well in Japan, and he demanded that he be allowed to do both in order to make the trip, make the swap over to the United States. And so they went in. Would you begin to give him more credit if, say 20 years from now, no one else has done, forget 30 and 10. No one else has done both full time. Would you give him more credit then? Because I think, look, I do think this, Rob. If there's a kid who looks so good at both, I think they'll at least give him a shot. I think he has more of a shot today than ever before. Right. I'll agree with you on that. They'd have to be special. And you talked about it. Deion Sanders scored a touchdown and hit a home run the same day on a major league level. Now, again, should we not celebrate what Deion did, or at least celebrate it as greatly and say, well, heck, who else did they let play both sports? There were a few players. It's not like Deion was the only one. There are probably about at least 15 or 20 guys who played both. I can't give you like some of the old days. Bo Jackson did it. DJ Dozier, is that his name, Rob G? I think there was a running back or a player. I remember DJ Dozier in football. Yeah, he played baseball. And who's the other one? Brian Jordan played for the Braves, Chris, and the Falcons. You remember Brian Jordan? Brian Jordan, yeah. So there was like a number of guys, at least, more than just Deion doing it. And I think that's where I just have my issue a little bit. Let me ask you this. Would you, because if Ohtani just focused on hitting or pitching, I'm sure, I got to believe he'd be better at both, right? Like, he would be as great as he is, he'd be an even better hitter if he just focused on hitting, and he'd be an even better pitcher if he just focused on pitching. I don't disagree with that. No, I don't to pitch. So would you rather him choose one? No, because I think this is unique, and I'm not like some Neanderthal. Like, for him to be able to have this success is incredible at the major league level because we just haven't seen it. Especially for the Angels, I don't know if there was a team, because at some point that's what happened to Babe Ruth. They just we need you to hit. You know what I mean? Like, he was a good pitcher, but he was a way better hitter. And Chris, when he was in the 20s, Babe Ruth was hitting like 40 home runs and the next guy was hitting 5.
Right.
You know, it was like
Right.
it was like, well, what are you doing? Not
Right.
you're pitching and not play. Not
Well, look, here's how good of a pitcher he was. And I gotta admit, I don't know where these numbers stack up, you know, compared to other guys at that time. Although his ERA was really low. It was in the 2s. But he went 18-8 in 1915, then 23-12, 24-13, 13-7, and then 9-5. So it seems like he was beginning to maybe lose a little bit.
Yeah,
pitching,
wasn't as good.
and then
right.
he began hitting full time. But you know, I hear you in that. You know, I agree that they have. If a guy was great at both, he obviously had to choose in America. But I'm not gonna poo-poo what Shohei's done, and I'm just excited. I would love to see somebody else do this, and I think there are guys that could do it, Rob. I don't know about 30-10, but I think there are guys that could do both.
Yeah, I would like to see if there was somebody else, and I think you're right. As kids, you know, like I want to be like Mike. You know, like kids growing up.
Right.
Shohei could have that effect.
Oh, yeah.
I really believe that because the kids watching going, this is incredible. I want to pitch once a week and DH 5 days a week.
Right. Absolutely.